Okay, this is, my name is James Lindsay, and this is Officer Shannon Williams. We were the Acquittal County Sheriff's Department, and your name is Tyler Edmonds, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you're age 13?
Yes, sir. James, why can't I be in here with you? Is what I don't understand.
Talk to me about me.
Well, I mean, you can talk to him with me here. I mean, you're telling him the truth, right?
I'm telling him the truth.
Okay, what is the truth?
Me and Christy did it.
Oh. Y'all killed him? Tyler.
It was May 11th, 2003, in a small town called Longview, Mississippi. Joey Fulgham was found shot dead in his own bed. Now, this wasn't the kind of thing that usually happened in Longview. Joey's wife, Christy, told the officers something that turned everything upside down. She said her 13-year-old half-brother, Tyler Edwards, had confessed to her that he was the one who shot Joey. According to her, Tyler used a rifle to shoot her husband blank in the head while he was asleep.
Nobody suspected that.
I said, Christy has already told us that you shot.
Naturally, the police brought Tyler in for questioning, along with his mother. At first, the young boy denied knowing anything about the shooting, but then the officers made his mom step out of the room. That's when things took a strange turn. Christy came in and talked to Tyler.
The investigators say point blank to Tyler, Christy says you did it. He doesn't believe it, so officers bring Christy into the room. Christy says, Tyler, tell him what happened. At that point, after she leaves, Tyler's story begins to shift.
In the heat of the moment, Tyler confessed on the video. He said that both he and Christy had fired the gun together, pulling the trigger at the same time. But a few days later, Tyler changed his story. He said that the confession wasn't true.
I don't have a problem with him talking to you, but I would prefer to be in the room because he is a minor. And y'all are sitting here doing stuff behind my back.
Tyler, I mean, you're telling them the truth, right? They're not making you say stuff that you don't want to say.
Still, they decided to try him as an adult in court. The main evidence against him? That confession and the words of a medical examiner named Stephen Hain. Hain claimed, based on the autopsy, that it seemed much more likely two people had shot the rifle together, just like Tyler originally said. And with that, Tyler's confession became a key part of the case. Now, what actually happened was still unclear at this point. The police have just the confession, which he negated after, but still, they proceeded with it in court.
The confession now, even though there's some discrepancy between Christy's version and Tyler's version, they have a confession. They're on solid ground.
So after Joey Fulgham was found dead, we have to take a few steps back to see how things unfolded before that day. It was Friday, May 9th, 2003. Christy Fulgham, Joey's wife, went to pick up her 13-year-old half-brother, Tyler Edmonds, like she did every other weekend. This was their usual routine. Christy and Tyler shared the same father, Danny Edmonds, so they were pretty close, almost like siblings who saw each other often. But this weekend, things would take a very dark turn. After Tyler got to Christy and Joey's house in the Longview community, Christy took Tyler out to grab some dinner. They headed to Subway, got their sandwiches, and brought them back home. After they finished eating, Joey went to bed, probably thinking it was just a normal night. Christy, though, stayed up late, sitting at the computer while Tyler crashed on the floor next to her. Now, at this point, it was still a regular evening, or so it seemed. But something happened during the night. Christy woke Tyler up and told him to move to one of her kids' beds, where he fell asleep again. But then, in the very early hours of the morning, between 3:30 and 4 a.m., the alarm clock went off. Tyler woke up to the sound, and, as he told in his videotape confession, he made his way to Joey's bedroom. It was at this moment that everything changed. According to Tyler, he didn't act alone. He said Christy helped him, guiding him through what would become a cold, calculated plan. Tyler had brought a .22 caliber rifle with him, something Christy had apparently asked for. Together, they went into Joey's room. Tyler then shot Joey in the back of the head while he slept. The ultimate betrayal right there in his own room. Now, according to Tyler's first confession after Joey was dead, Christy and Tyler tried to stage the scene to make it look like a robbery. Tyler claimed Christy stole some of her jewelry, as well as the family computer. He thought she might have taken Joey's wallet too, trying to make it seem like someone had broken in and committed the crime. With 3 children in tow, they loaded everything up in the car and left town. What they did next paints an even stranger picture. Instead of hiding away or laying low, they drove to Jackson, Mississippi, where they picked up Christy's boyfriend, Kyle Harvey. The group then headed down to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, staying at the Beau Rivage, a fancy casino resort. It was like nothing had happened. They even spent time on the beach, enjoying the sun and sand as if Joey's murder wasn't looming over them. And in an odd twist of events, Tyler called his mother that Sunday to wish her a happy Mother's Day. It was almost as if the gravity of what had happened hadn't fully sunk in yet. However, things were about to catch up with them. As they were heading back to Jackson, Christy started getting calls. Someone on the other end was telling her the news. Joey had been murdered. Of course, Christy already knew this, but she played along as though she was hearing it for the first time. When they returned, both Christy and Tyler voluntarily showed up at the sheriff's department. You would think maybe they had an alibi in place or believed they could get away with it. But once the questioning began, things fell apart. Christy, already thinking ahead, turned on Tyler, throwing him under the bus and putting all the blame on him. She had him set up emotionally, manipulating her younger half-brother. Christy told him that if she got caught, she would likely face the death penalty, but Tyler was just a teenager.
Her spending time with other people, having affairs, moving in a different direction that did not involve a family life. But I think Joey was always in love with her.
There's no question that Christy Fulgham was an incredible manipulator, especially her husband, her many lovers, and certainly her 13-year-old half-brother who adored her.
I can't think of the word that people groomed. I feel like she was kind of grooming Tyler to, you know, be her little puppet or what, you know, whatever she wanted him to, like, she had him brainwashed almost, basically.
There were early signs that she was not mentally healthy, but the extent of what can really only be described as evil, the extent of her evil activity, nobody suspected that.
According to her, if he took the blame, he might get off easier, maybe serve a little time and be free in just a few days. In her mind, it seemed like the perfect plan. She used her relationship with him to trick him into covering for her. Tyler, pressured and confused, eventually confessed to playing a role in her deadly plan. Ultimately, they charged Tyler with capital murder and put him on trial as an adult. So after that, things started coming to light that made Christy Fulgham's motives even clearer. It turned out she wasn't just unhappy in her marriage. She had been planning Joey's death for a while, and the reason behind it was cold and calculating. Christy had gone to her father's house before Joey's death, and during that visit, she revealed something disturbing. Her father later told the jury that Christy had asked him for a gun. She said she wanted to kill Joey. When he asked her why she would even think about doing something like that, Christy told him Joey had been mean to her and the kids. Her father, Danny, tried to talk some sense into her, suggesting she just leave Joey instead. But Christy wasn't interested in that option. She told him straight up Joey had a life insurance policy. The wheels in her head were turning, and it was clear she saw Joey's death as a way to cash in.
So Christy came to your house, and tell the jury what y'all discussed at your house when Christy came over there.
She asked me for a gun, that she wanted to kill Joey. And I asked her why. And she said he was mean to her and the kids. And I told her, just leave it. And she said, no, he's got a life insurance policy.
Danny, Christy's father, tried for years to get someone to listen to him. He knew something wasn't right. and he wanted the authorities to hear his side of the story. But because Tyler had already confessed, no one paid much attention to what Danny had to say. And yet, people in Starkville knew about Christy's interest in Joey's insurance money. Even the police were aware of it. But somehow, all that got lost, and the spotlight stayed on Tyler, the 13-year-old boy who people around him said would never have committed such a crime. There were more clues about Christy's motives. An insurance worker testified that Christy had called him, asking about Joey's life insurance policy. She wanted to know the details, how much money it was worth, and who the beneficiary was. It seemed like Christy had been laying the groundwork for a while, making sure all the pieces were in place before Joey's murder. People who knew Tyler couldn't believe he was capable of such a thing. His classmates remembered him as a bright, intelligent kid, the kind with a sweet face and blonde hair. He was a quiet, good-natured boy. His mother, Sharon, had raised him on her own after a bitter divorce. Tyler didn't get to see his father much, and his closest family member was his half-sister, Christy Fulgham. Christy was always there, the older sister who helped Tyler get in touch with their father, even when Sharon didn't approve. To Tyler, going to Christy's house was something special, a big event. That weekend, in particular, he was excited to spend time with her and her family. Christy lived close by with her husband Joey and their 3 kids. To anyone looking from the outside, it might have seemed like a normal family weekend. When Joey first met Christy, he had fallen head over heels for her. She was charming, beautiful, and knew how to use her looks to her advantage. But Christy was far from happy in her marriage. She had numerous affairs, spending time with other men, and her actions slowly chipped away at her relationship with Joey. Still, Joey remained deeply in love with her, even as their marriage started crumbling. Christy had a way of manipulating the people around her, including Joey and her many lovers. But perhaps the most heartbreaking manipulation was of Tyler, her 13-year-old half-brother, who absolutely adored her. It became clear to those who knew the family that Christy had been grooming Tyler, almost brainwashing him. She made him into her little puppet, and he would have done anything for her. While there were signs early on that Christy wasn't mentally stable, no one could have imagined how far she would go.
I can't think of the word that people groomed. I feel like she was kind of grooming Tyler to, be her little puppet or whatever she wanted him to, like, she had him brainwashed almost, basically.
On that particular weekend, when Joey's brother Shannon and his wife Kimberly couldn't reach Joey, they started to worry. Joey Fulgham was supposed to go to an air show that Saturday, but he didn't show up. It was out of character for him to miss something like that. But maybe he had a reason. But then, the next day was Mother's Day, and again, Joey didn't appear. That's when his family knew something was really off. This was more than just Joey being forgetful or busy. Something terrible had happened. Joey's brother Shannon, his wife Kimberly, decided to go over to the house to check on him. They didn't expect to find anything so horrific, but when they got there, it was worse than anyone could have imagined. Inside the house, they stumbled upon a gruesome scene. In a panic, they immediately called 911. After that, the authorities arrived promptly. Joey's body was found in the bedroom on the south side of the house. He was lying on his stomach in bed, shot in the back of the head. The way he lay there made it clear he never moved after the bullet hit him. It was as if he had been taken by complete surprise, having no chance to react or defend himself. It was a cold, calculated murder. The police started their investigation by questioning Shannon. As Joey's brother, Shannon was understandably emotional, but he wasn't shouting or losing control. He just laid out the facts as best he could. Shannon didn't have any doubt about who was responsible. In his mind, it was crystal clear. Joey's wife, Christy, had done it. Shannon didn't seem to need much convincing about her guilt. The investigators took Shannon's suspicions seriously and began looking for Christy. they found her in Little Rock, Mississippi, staying at her mother's house. They sent officers over to talk to her that same night. When they spoke with Christy, she played the role of the grieving widow, acting as if she was devastated by her husband's death. But the police weren't buying it completely. Based on what they had learned so far, they were able to gather enough circumstantial evidence to get a warrant for Christy's arrest. But before they could even serve the warrant, Christy voluntarily showed up at the sheriff's office in Starkville. Christy didn't waste much time in telling her version of what happened. According to her, the person responsible wasn't her, but her 13-year-old half-brother, Tyler. She spun a story, claiming that Tyler had become enraged after she told him Joey had been abusive toward her. In her version, Tyler waited until Joey was asleep that night, then snuck into the bedroom, raised a rifle, and shot Joey in the back of the head with a single deadly shot.
Christy basically paints Tyler as the mastermind behind Joey's murder. She says it's Tyler who pulled the trigger, that it was Tyler who was motivated by anger directed at Joey.
The police weren't fully convinced by Christy's story, so they brought Tyler in for questioning. At first, Tyler denied everything, claiming he had no involvement in the murder. But the investigators weren't going to let him off that easily. They told him flat out, "Christy says you did it." Tyler didn't know what to make of it at first. He couldn't believe Christy had pinned it all on him.
I said, no. And the deputy leaned down and got in my face. He says, "Are you calling me a liar, boy?" And I said, "I'm not calling you a liar, but I don't think that my sister would say that."
So the officers decided to bring Christy into the room. She stood there and told Tyler directly, "Tell them what happened." And just like that, Tyler's story began to change. He started shifting from denying everything to admitting more and more. The police recorded what came next as Tyler slowly confessed to playing a role in Joey's death, but only after Christy's manipulation.
My sister was in an orange jumpsuit and, shackles and handcuffs. And to be quite frank, it scared the out of me. She was just sniffling and crying. She said, "Oh my God, Tyler, they're gonna kill me. I'm gonna get the electric chair. You have to help me." And I'm like, I can't help. What am I supposed to do?
Even though there were differences between Christy's and Tyler's stories, the police felt like they were on solid ground. They had Tyler's confession, and in their eyes, that was enough to press forward. Based almost entirely on what Tyler had said, both and Christy were arrested and charged with capital murder for Joey Fulgham's death. Christy was facing the death penalty, while Tyler, still just a teenager, could end up with life in prison if found guilty. Not long after his confession, Tyler reached out to the police again. He told them in another statement that he had lied. He admitted that he had made up the story to protect his sister, Christy. But the police didn't pay much attention to his second confession. They dismissed it, and Tyler's trial started on July 20th, 2004. It was a big case, drawing a lot of attention because of Tyler's age. It wasn't common to see someone so young standing trial for murder. Tyler's lawyer, Jim Wade, was well known in the area for his tenacity. People called him a fighter, and if anyone could give Tyler a chance at beating the charges, it was him. Jim Wade believed with all his heart that Tyler's initial confession was a lie, something he had said only to shield his sister. He was convinced that Tyler had implicated himself after Christy told him to tell the police what happened. Within minutes of her words, Tyler made the confession that would change his life. However, the judge refused to allow the jury to hear Tyler's later retraction. They only got to hear his first confession. And on top of that, the state had a respected forensic pathologist, Dr. Stephen Hain, testify that the evidence backed up Tyler's original statement. Hain said that based on the trajectory of the bullet, it was clear that two people had handled the gun. This raised more than a few eyebrows in the courtroom. It was a testimony that seemed to lend credibility to Tyler's confession.
There's no logical explanation that would ever be able to explain how the angle of a bullet in someone can 100% be determined that two people were holding that gun. There's no way.
After 5 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with a verdict. It wasn't what Tyler's family had hoped for. His mother had wished for an acquittal, or at least a lesser charge, but that didn't happen. On July 24, 2004, at the age of 15, the jury found Tyler guilty of murder and sentenced him to life in prison. The verdict didn't bring much peace to Joey's family. They weren't after harsh, biblical-style punishment. They just wanted the truth to come out. In some ways, the conviction brought them a sense of closure, knowing that the jury had accepted the truth as they saw it. But for Tyler's loved ones, the fight wasn't over. Jim Wade vowed to appeal the conviction. He was sure the trial had errors important enough to overturn it. Even after the conviction, Jim kept fighting. Tyler stayed locked up at Walnut Grove Correctional Facility, but Jim Wade refused to give up on him.
My mom literally gave up everything that she had, her life, her house, her husband, her financial security.
Tyler's defense was pretty expensive, but I had liquidated everything I had, and I'll be in debt for the rest of my life. It was all about saving my child's life, and when you go to save your child's life, what is your child's life worth? What is your child's life worth?
At first, things didn't look promising for Tyler. Both the Circuit Court and the State Court of Appeals denied Jim's initial motions for a new trial. But that didn't stop Jim. He kept pushing, and eventually, Tyler's case started to gain public attention. The harsh sentence for someone so young sparked debates, and even inspired state lawmakers to push for new legislation to prevent such extreme sentences for minors.
Jim never gave up, kept on fighting even after Tyler was convicted.
I became convinced that there were so many errors in the trial that surely these would be reversed.
Reversed convictions in Mississippi are extraordinarily rare. And to think that the second trial could have a different outcome of not guilty, that was a stretch.
Then, in 2007, a glimmer of hope appeared. The Mississippi Supreme Court agreed to hear Tyler's case. In January, after a short deliberation, the court came back with a unanimous decision. They were overturning Tyler's conviction. Their reason? Tyler hadn't received a fair trial. One of the key issues they pointed to was Dr. Haynes' testimony. The court ruled that the pathologist had stepped out of his area of expertise when he told the jury that 2 people had fired the gun. That was a turning point.
If he had taken the manslaughter plea, he would have been out of jail in just a few months. Whereas if he goes to trial and is convicted, he gets life in prison. But that was the strongest indication to me that Tyler was innocent.
Every now and then, I've come across an attorney who has been just incredibly emotionally invested in their client, and I think Jim Wade is one of those.
Tyler Edmonds' second trial began on October 28, 2008, back in Starkville, Mississippi. This trial was different for Tyler. It wasn't just another fight for his freedom. It felt like his one true shot at clearing his name. His lawyer, Jim Wade, saw it as a chance for redemption, not only for Tyler, but for himself. Wade had fought hard to get here, and now he was ready to tackle the case head-on. In his opening statement, Wade tells the jury that Tyler had been a scared 13-year-old kid back then, manipulated into confessing something he hadn't done. One of Wade's bold moves was to call Christy to the stand. There was a lot of hope that since Christy had already received a life sentence, she might finally tell the truth. Everyone thought that maybe now, with nothing left to lose, Christy would own up to her role in Joey's death. When she sat down in the witness stand, Christy didn't break. She didn't confess to anything.
Would you state your name, please, ma'am?
Christy Fulgham.
All right. Miss Fulgham, you're Tyler Edmonds' sister, is that correct?
And she takes the fifth to every question.
On the advice of my attorney, I'm not answering any questions.
Wade also revealed aspects of Christy's life that Tyler's first trial had not covered. He showed how Christy had publicly aired her dirty laundry, including her affairs and manipulation of those around her on national television. He played a clip from the Montel Williams show where Christy openly discussed her infidelities and the messy details of her marriage to Joey. This painted a picture of Christy as someone who wasn't happy in her marriage and was willing to do anything to get what she wanted, including manipulating her 13-year-old brother into taking the blame for murder.
And moved to Texas.
Yeah.
You went to Texas and one of your friends went along, right?
Yeah.
And I should say that this friend was also the best friend of your husband, Joe.
Yeah.
What happened?
I ended up pregnant with my baby.
The defense then focused on Christy's real motive, money. It came out during the trial that Christy had called an insurance worker months before Joey's death, asking about his life insurance policy. She wanted to know how much it was worth and who the beneficiary was. Her interest in Joey's insurance wasn't just casual curiosity. It was clear she had been planning his death for some time, with or without Tyler's help.
It would have been probably March or April of 2003. I was at work and received a telephone call from Christy. She asked me about Joey's life insurance policy, how much it was for, who the beneficiary was. I told her that I couldn't tell her because Joey had signed a privacy statement stating that the only person that I could talk to about such documents was Joey himself.
The most damning evidence came from Tyler's description of the crime scene. Tyler had said that after the shooting, there was blood everywhere, but the pathologist testified that a .22 caliber gun, the type used to kill Joey, wouldn't have caused the kind of blood splatter Tyler described.
Goes in and does significant damage inside the brain. But in this kind of a wound, the bleeding doesn't start right away.
Crime scene photos back this up. There wasn't any visible blood on the pillows, which contradicted Tyler's account. This means Tyler wasn't even there during the murder.
I heard it go off and I looked at it and saw that it actually hit him.
How do you know that it hit you?
I saw some blood. It was on the pillow, I guess. Something white. And there was just some little sprinkles on it. I thought it was blood. But then, they really go off and I couldn't believe that I did.
In Tyler's first trial, the judge suppressed his attempt to take back his confession. But this time, Jim Wade succeeded in getting that retraction in front of the jury. For the first time, the jurors heard Tyler's side of the story as he tried to undo the damage caused by his initial confession.
Did you lie when you gave that statement?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how did you lie?
By saying that I had something to do with the murder of Joey Fulgham.
Why did you lie?
To protect my sister.
It's not easy to believe that somebody that looks like him committed this crime. There's only one person in this courtroom who is an admitted liar, and that's the person sitting over there in between his two lawyers. His whole defense is, I'm a liar. Folks, somebody who will lie, protect his sister, will lie to protect himself.
Tyler explained that on the morning Joey was killed, he had been sitting on Christy's car outside the house.
Christy was still in the house and crunked the car up, and I was sitting there messing with the radio waiting for Christy.
He heard a noise, but didn't know what it was. Later, Christy told him that she had shot Joey and gave Tyler instructions on what to say when the police questioned him.
All of a sudden, I just heard this pop. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think anything of it.
Tyler took the stand on the last day of the trial, October 31st, 2008. Everything came down to whether or not the jury believed him. He admitted that he had lied in his first confession to protect Christy, who had convinced him that because he was under 18, nothing serious would happen to him. Tyler said that she told him to take the blame, or he would never see her or her kids again. For Tyler, that was enough to make him confess. In the end, it came down to who the jury believed, Tyler or Christy. After deliberating, the jury returned with a verdict, not guilty.
The jury has turned a verdict of not guilty. You are hereby discharged. You may go.
I'm relieved. I've been praying for this for almost 6 years. It's been torture. I'm just glad that I can move on with my life. God is good, and I've prayed how I couldn't pray anymore. God is great. And my family and my friends have all supported me.
Tyler Edmonds was finally free. After years of struggle, Jim Wade, Sharon, and Tyler's family and friends finally felt a sense of relief. Tyler, who had once faced a lifetime in prison, could finally move on with his life. Meanwhile, in 2010, Christy was retired, and the truth of her involvement in Joey's murder became undeniable. Investigators uncovered more evidence that she had planned Joey's death for years, starting around the time she had began showing an interest in his life insurance and spending more time with Tyler. But by then, Tyler's long fight for justice had already been won.